Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today we are going to be using the Wishes and Wonder stamp set from the seasonal catalogue that runs up till Christmas. I really love this set. I bought it a while ago and I hadn't actually used it, but now I've got it out I can't stop using it. So we're using some of the dies today as well. There are some really nice sentiments in the stamp set. It's a really nice sleigh and a deer, some really nice mistletoe and some sentiments. And then the dies that actually go with it, there is a die to cut out the mistletoe, the deer, the sleigh, a circle and a sort of medallion circle to go behind that as well. And a really nice label, and that's what we're going to be using today. But there's also this little dinky die here which has got, if I hold it sideways hopefully you can see, it's got, oh, sorry, jogged the camera, can't keep hold of it, different size little circles for doing the mistletoe berries. They do get smaller. I thought it was my imagination at first, but sorry, I can't hold it flat so you can see. They're bigger this end and then they get slightly smaller that end. And then there are some extra dies. There are some foliage dies which you've seen me use in a previous video, and there is this really nice stag. Oh, excuse me, who's wearing a necklace. This really nice stag as well. So I think you'll probably see him coming out in the next video. Right, so let's get started. So we're making a double gatefold card today. I like a fancy fold, and I think at Christmas it's really nice to use a card that is a little bit extra special. So I'm going to move the stamp set to one side and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. I haven't actually made up an example card. I've pre-cut all the elements that we need for me to show you how to make this card. So hopefully you'll be happy to follow along. So this is the base. Just move my bits out to one side. This is the base. It's a piece of A4 Merry Merlot cardstock. I've got something on there, but don't worry too much because we're going to be covering that up in a minute. It's a piece of Merry Merlot cardstock, and it is cut down the length of an A4 sheet if you're in the UK, whatever size you are if you're not. And it's cut at 14.8 centimetres across here. So you do have a small bit on the side, but we're going to make use of some of that later. Because the standard UK sheet is 29.8, I think it is, centimetres long, to actually make this card as a double gatefold to fit in a standard C6, it's not long enough. You'd actually need 31.5 centimetres. But with this double gatefold card, there's a way of getting around it. So you will notice that this side is wider than this side, but once we actually mount the front on the card, you're not going to see that at all. So as I said, it's the full length of an A4 sheet, cut at 14.8 across the sheet, across the width of the sheet, and then you need to score at 5.25, 10.5, 21 and 26.25, and that will give you a 10.5 middle. This side is 10.5 and this side isn't quite 10.5, but as I said, we're going to attach a piece to that. So I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions and it doesn't make sense to you, then please feel free to leave me a comment after this and I'll try my best to explain. Okay, so that's our base card. So we're just going to put that aside for 1 minute. This piece of Whisper White cardstock is cut at 14.5 by 10. No, 14.3, sorry, by 10. And that is actually going to provide us with a layer in the middle, because obviously with a dark coloured cardstock we need somewhere to write. So that is going to provide us with somewhere to put our greeting in there. And then I have another piece of Merry Merlot cardstock, and this is cut at 10.5 wide by 14.8 long. And that actually, as you can see, fits the front of the card, and that's how we get around having that short bit, and I'll explain that in a second. And then on top of that we've got another Whisper White layer which is 10 centimetres by 14.3, and that just gives us a nice little edge round the corner there. So I'm going to start working on that piece. I'm just going to push these other pieces to one side, and I've decided I really like this mistletoe stamp, so I've decided I'm going to use that, and I'm using some old olive ink, and I'm just going to randomly stamp this. If you were batch making these, you could make a couple of one sheet wonders and you'd get 4 card fronts out of 1 A4 sheet, and that might be a good way to make a whole pile in one go. If you did a 1 sheet wonder on 2 sheets of Whisper White cardstock, that would actually gain you 8 card fronts for this card in one go without too much hassle. Okay, so I'm just randomly stamping the mistletoe stamp all over there just to give us a little bit of a background, and I feel like I need to go in with something else just to fill in. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to grab, you will be seeing this set later, this is a new set called Curvy Christmas. This comes with some dies, there are some papers as well, and it also comes with a non-Christmas set, and the dies are for both. But there's some really nice, hopefully you can see that, there's this really nice bow, and there's some nice little stars and snowflakes. So I'm just going to grab the smallest snowflake, the little snowflake out of there, just to give us some sort of fill in on this. You will be seeing that set again, because my next card that I will be posting after this one on YouTube will be using that set. And I'm just going to grab, if I can get arm in, I'm just going to grab a balmy blue, which will give us a nice little bit of colour. And I'm just going to randomly, and I can hear you shouting, balmy blue doesn't go with Merry Merlot. Snowflakes have to be blue, I'm sorry, they do. Okay, so I'm just going to put in some random stamping with that. Oh, I think maybe we need another one up there. And then also in that set, there's some really nice little stars. So I'm just going to grab the bigger one of the stars. And again, I'm going to bring something in that we don't actually sell at the moment. We had them last year and there was some issues with getting them. So you could, if you don't have this ink pad, you can buy them elsewhere. We sold them last year, but you can buy them elsewhere. They're the Delectica ink pads, and there were some problems getting the refills and everything last year. They are very juicy, these pads. I've got the copper one and I've got the silver one. But if you don't happen to have one of these, what you could do is use a Versamark and some copper or gold embossing powder, which would give you the same sort of effect. And I'm just going to go in with this copper pad. As I said, they are quite juicy. This one got used a lot last Christmas, and it needs re-inking. Luckily, I did manage to buy the re-inker actually before I managed to get the ink pad. But they are available from other craft retailers. If you managed to buy the pad and couldn't get the refill, then obviously it's worth having a look online. I think places, Amazon had it last year, and you might be able to get it elsewhere. So that just gives us that little bit of, I don't know if you can see that, it just gives us a little bit of shine. I don't think that shows up very well on the camera. So that's just given us a base. As I said, you could do this as a 1 sheet wonder and you would end up, 2 sheets of A4, you'd end up with 8 card fronts. Pretty good for batch making. Okay, so we're going to stick that onto our piece of Merry Merlot cardstock, and I'm going to use some liquid glue. Obviously you use whichever is your adhesive of choice. I just love our Tombow glue. I mean, they go on forever. They are brilliant. You get a lot of glue in them, and they just do give you, obviously I'm trying to do this from behind a camera, they just do give you a little bit of wiggle room to get it straight. There we are, and that's quite effective, I think, for a couple of minutes of stamping. So now we're going to work on the inside of the card, and we want to have a greeting on the inside of the card, and there are several in the stamp set. So we've got, may the wonder of Christmas stay with you throughout the coming year, wishing you the happiest season of all. You've got this lovely special delivery, but I'm actually going to take one out of this Curvy Christmas set, and we're going to use I think we're going to use May Your Days Be Merry and Bright. I like the fact that they're curved. There's thinking of you at Christmas. May your days be merry and bright. And there is actually a sort of a block Merry Christmas, but I like the fact they're curved, and I'm hoping it's not going to be too long to fit across. That could be an issue. We may have to rethink this. Yeah, it is. You're going to, oh, it's just gonna fit. And I don't know if I like the fact that that will go right to the border. So actually, we're going to have a rethink on that. We'll use a different one. I think what we'll do is use the Thinking of You at Christmas, because obviously with the whole COVID thing, I'm really, really hoping that going into the countrywide lockdown on Thursday next week is going to mean that we might manage to get some sort of Christmas. Now obviously don't worry about getting this straight, because it isn't meant to be straight, it's meant to be curvy. And I'm going to go in with the Merry Merlot. I'm a bit OCD about things. I know I've just put blue stars onto a Merry Merlot card, but they're little. Okay, so we're going to go in with that Thinking of You at Christmas greeting. And I love these curvy ones. It doesn't matter if they're not straight. Brilliant for when you're trying to do things with a camera in your face. Okay, so that's that. And I just feel like we need a little bit of something in there with that greeting. I know that people need to write, and you might have a huge family and about 60 million names, but I just feel that we need something. So I'm just looking for that little snowflake again, and I'm just going to go in with some groups of that little snowflake, and it pays to do odd numbers, so 3s, 5s, 7s, that kind of thing. We're just going to go in with that, and I think that just takes the edge off that plainness, so it's not just the greeting. Okay, and that's going to go in the middle of our card, so I'm just going to get some Tombow on the back of that. Please excuse me sniffing on. It was half term last week, and I think the lovely little children I look after have finally managed to pass their snotty noses onto me, but I don't have any other symptoms, so I definitely don't have COVID. Right, we are just gonna pop that in the middle there. And I can just see I've made a little smudge, so I'm just going to get my Tombow Mono rubber out. There you go, let's get rid of that. So that's the inside of our card. So next we need to mount up the outside. Now you need to be careful that you only stick this to one side of your card, because if you do, the card's not going to, if you don't rather, if you put glue all over the back of this, this is going to stick to the whole front of the card and nobody will be able to open it. You also need to bear in mind that this flap doesn't go right over to the edge. So don't turn this over and put a load of adhesive down this edge, because you're going to be sticking it to the back of the card. So what I'm going to do to make it a bit easier is I'm going to put my glue onto the flap. So that means that when I place the front down on the card level, it's only going to stick where I want it stuck. So that's my tip to you. Don't put your adhesive on the back of this panel. So by putting it on there, and then we're just going to hold it down flat, we need to line this up with the front of the card. So again, using wet glue gives you a little bit of room. I don't know if you could see that slipping and sliding around there. Gives you a little bit of room to line it up. And we're going to give it a press. Don't do what I've done and stamp off the edges of your white and not clean it off, because if you're doing this on a paler coloured cardstock, you're going to end up with, if you can hear me sloshing, it is rubbing alcohol, and I'm just going to take that off there. Rubbing alcohol is a really good way of cleaning off your mat. I use a laminated mat. If you're using grid paper that you're then going to throw away, then fine. But for my classes, I'm a bit of a hippie at heart, and I don't like lots of paper waste. I know it can be recycled, but I'm never sure if it's covered in ink and glue, then I don't think it can be recycled. So I would really rather use something that's wipeable. So yeah, in case anybody was thinking that I was having a crafty drink, that's what I was doing. And also, by using surgical spirit or rubbing alcohol, as it's known in the UK, it evaporates quite quickly, so this dries off. If I tried to wipe this with a baby wipe or a surface wipe, that would stay wet for quite a long time, but you can see, perfectly dry. So, okay, so back to our card. So here's our front panel that we've made, and you can see that that lines up perfectly, top and bottom. And then when you open it, you get that inside, and yes, you can see the join there, but you've got a fold there, so nobody knows that it's too short unless they take your card and fold it over. And let's face it, how many people are going to do that before they put it on their mantelpiece? Right, so I actually think that's quite nice as it is, but you know, we need to add a little bit of something. So what we're going to do is I have used the tag die that's in this set, and it cuts out this really pretty little tag with a sort of a stitched zigzag detail. I don't know if you can see that there, stitched zigzag detail, and it even cuts a little hole for you at the top as well. So I have cut one of them in Merry Merlot, and we're going to attach that to the front of the card at an angle. And then I've cut a white one, which we're going to put going downwards, but because this is white, it sort of blends in to the background. It shows up against the Merry Merlot. So what we're going to do is just ink very lightly around the edge of that white tag. I'm just moving that out of the way so I don't drop things on it. And I'm just bringing in, I can't find my daubers. I think I said that in an earlier video that I made today that will be posted probably just before this one. I can't find the daubers. Don't know what I've done with them. Bought some new ones and I've put them somewhere in a safe place. Yeah. Okay, so just to give us a little bit of continuity with the background of the card, I'm just going to bring that little snowflake stamp back in again and randomly stamp some snowflakes over. Okay, and then we'll bring in the little star again and our copper. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Oh, there. I suspect I'm not the only one that puts things down and then can't see where they've put them because they're right in front of their face. Okay, we're going to come back in with that star and just put some little copper accents on there. Again, as I said, you could do this with embossing powder. Okie dokie. I think we just need one there. Right, there we go. Let's get rid of that again. So that's just added a little bit of colour so that when we bring that back in and offer that up to our card front, obviously make sure the tag doesn't stick over the side of the card, otherwise you'll have trouble getting it in the envelope. Can you see how much more that pops on the card? And then what I've done is I've stamped and die cut one of the deers, and he is going to be raised up on there. So let's get this assembled. So we're going to put a dimensional onto the back of our deer. Okay, and then we need some dimensionals on the back of these labels because we want to have a little bit of height. Now, I'm not a person that puts 6 dimensionals on something this size. I'll go down the middle and put 3 on. And this one we're actually going to glue on. So when you've die cut, do make sure that you get your die cuts up the right way. There is a right and a wrong way, and you'll see if I turn this over, there's sort of a lip there. You don't really want to be seeing that. That's the side that we want to glue down to the card. So we're just going to put a little bit of Tombow on the back there. And then bring this back in. And again, as I said, make sure that your tag is not sticking over the side of the card. Otherwise, you won't be able to get it in your envelope. And then we're going to take the dimensionals off the backs, or the backings, I should say, off these dimensionals. And that's one of my little top tips. I don't know if you saw me press my thumbnail into the dimensional, but it just helps lift up the edges. So if you haven't got very long nails, it's a good tip to have. And we're lining up the dots. Oh. Make sure you've got it level when you press down. There we go. And then we're going to add our little deer onto the top of that. There he is. You could, if you wanted to, if you had some designer series paper, you could make this tag at the back out of designer series paper, or even this one at the front. But I didn't actually have Christmas designer series paper with Merry Merlot in. It was Poppy Parade, I think, the one I had, so that's why I've made my background papers effectively myself. So there we go. And then just to finish that off, I've just tied a little bow out of the lovely polka dot ribbon. I know this isn't a Christmas thing, it's in the annual catalogue, but it just makes me think of snowballs. So in order to attach that, we're going to go in with another mini dimensional this time. You can use a glue dot, I just don't happen to have those to hand, and I'm going to put that mini dimensional over the holes in that tag. Take the back off, and I'm just going to attach the middle, so the knot of the bow, so you don't actually see the dimensional because the knot is more than one layer, so it covers it up. I'm just going to attach it there. So there we are. There's our double gatefold card using the Curvy Christmas and the Wishes and Wonder set. I hope you like it, and I'll see you again soon for some more Christmas crafting. See you soon. Happy stamping. Bye.